This video is about me bench grafting my own apple trees and planting my own high density orchard here in Montana. If you'd like to see more, please stick around and check it out. I'm planting my high density orchard at 4-foot spacing. This is bud 9 rootstock. Hopefully it works out.
So we have a string down the middle now. You can kind of see over there, there wasn't one before, to show us a straight line. And he's trying to group them based on what they are, what the scion wood or the fruit wood is going to be.
This has got a real weak rootstock on it, but you can see it's starting to grow there. Little new growth. Hopefully it'll make it.
Four more feet. There's our next hole. And all of this field was, or this little patch was pre-tilled. He ran it over with the cultivator, right?
Yep.
And then with the tiller, lightly, didn't get super tilled. That's mostly in an effort to try to keep the grass down.
Yeah. One of the first tricks that I found after grafting my first 100 trees is you get a lot of scions that are little wimpy small things, and your rootstock is nice, beefy, beautiful, good sized wood, and you can't match up this anywhere on this rootstock. And so I always thought that you're just doing whip and tongues for doing this type of thing, and I just started doing cleft grafts, and I had quite a few of them take so far. And so that's what I'm doing, because, I don't know, it seems like that should work.
What is a cleft graft?
I'll show you a cleft graft real quick. So you do a double bevel cut. So you cut the side and then cut this side and make it as even as you can, which that's not perfect, but it is what it is. And there's no way that I can make this scion match on this very well for whip and tongue. And I don't know, maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe somebody that can tell me in the comments better technique for this to make this work. But I see people doing it all the time on like top working trees and stuff. So I thought that this would probably work for this too. And you just make a cleft towards the center of the wood. To be honest, I tried to do it where the scion wood will match up pretty evenly with 2 cambium layers. So I'll kind of put it off the side a little bit. If the 2 cambium layers won't match up evenly with both sides of this rootstock, then you just line up one side perfectly and wrap it tight, and they've taken for me. And do not just judge if it's lined up by the bark, because the bark on the rootstock, if it's thicker, will be thicker than the bark on your scion wood. So you try to match up the cambiums, and you just wedge it in there basically.
What about all that exposed wood on the top?
It'll heal, all callus up and heal over.
You think?
Well, I've had a few take, and they should. And they do this all the time with like big gigantic branches on existing trees. So
this is part of the experiment with the high density orchard, because there's a number of trees with this method as far as the graft, and there's a number of trees with whip and tongue.
Whip and tongue and this cleft graft, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really look into what else people do with small scion onto a bigger rootstock, but it just makes sense. That's what I've seen as a popular graft for top working a tree, so I don't see why it would be any different for putting it on a rootstock.
So you're making this work because your scion wood is smaller?
Yes.
Oh,
okay. And this was the second tip I had, was this wrapping technique. You just start your tape on, and then hold your roll, paraffin roll in the other hand, and just turn the rootstock in your hand, and it'll get a real tight wrap. I had been pulling like a 10-inch strip off and wrapping it, and this is way quicker. And definitely a tighter wrap, I'd say. So that is 2 pointers I've got after doing my first 100 grafts or so. And I don't know what percentages of my grafts have taken, because I had a bunch of bad sign wood that I just tried to use because I could get it for free. And some of that didn't take, a lot of it did, but anyway, I can't tell you what a percentage of success rate I've had.
Yet.
Yep. I've had the majority have taken.
It is now the beginning of May, and he has a little bit of a different system for getting these out here. He's pretty much just been grafting them in the evenings and putting them into a bucket like this, leaving all the roots out, and then popping them directly into the ground. Oh my gosh, this soil looks great. Look at this.
We're doing 4-foot spacing.
How far between the rows themselves?
6-foot spacing between the rows, and I just did that to make it easy walking. I think it'll be easy to walk in between them.
Hopefully.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. See how vigorous the trees are and see how well they do. They're supposed to be 8 foot tall, depending on the scion. And we have, I don't know how many varieties of apple in here. It's a lot.
So tell us about how you're planting them so you're keeping these varieties somewhat organized.
I am grafting them all one variety at a time, so they're kind of in a bundle. And then they come into the orchard right away. Putting these vinyl tags on. They are vinyl.
I don't know.
They're cheap.
Yep.
And they're pretty heavy duty.
They should hold up till we get this all on a map.
Yep.
And then we'll be able to come refer to that. And this spot is in full sun, so that's going to be really nice. So you're just going to kind of tediously work to get these planted?
Tediously.
Well, you're doing it a little every night.
Yeah.
And then we'll give you an update on what it ends up looking like.
Hopefully in about a month, all these trees will be nicely leafed out, and we can see what is working and what isn't.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the big true test of if things work is next spring. What comes back.
Of course.
Today's June 8th, and I grafted this tree end of March, I believe. And it's one of the first grafts I ever did. It's a Whitney crab onto Bud 9, and the graft is pretty rough, but calloused up nice. It's a whip and tongue with a really bad whip and tongue, but it looks pretty strong. And the tree's growing really good, nice dark healthy leaves. It's putting on some lateral branches with, I think probably it's going to be some fruit wood already. And I want to get this one out into my orchard. I don't know if I should or not, but I think I'm going to, just so I don't have to worry about forgetting to water it in here and getting too hot and dying. It's doing so well. And then here's another tree that I find interesting. It's a chunk of scion I took off a neighbor's tree, and I obviously am not very good at cutting and picking scion wood, but this, because a lot of the stuff that I cut off his trees didn't take very well, and this turned out, it looked like a fruit spur, but now it's starting to unfurl some new leaves. It just sat there with this little growth of leaves around what took from the graft, and now it's starting to unfurl some new leaves, which I hope is going to be some vegetative growth, so it'll actually grow into a healthy, normal tree. So I'm going to leave that one in here for a little bit and just see what it does and grow it out a little more. And I'm YouTube educated on grafting trees, and so I don't know 100% on what's right or wrong. I know what the difference between a vegetative and a fruit bud, and I try to get good vegetative buds to graft with, but that one turned out to be a fruit bud that took. So it's kind of interesting, I thought. And anyway, I got some more trees, grafts that I did not too long ago that are starting to blow up here. Here's some Bud 9 rootstock that's growing out. And these are Kerr grafts that I did that the scion wood went bad on me, and then none of them are taking anymore. But the rest are all these are putting some good growth on them and let them grow up a little bit, because, man, this is like, for me in Montana, this is like a year's worth of growth, usually for our trees. So if I can get that out of them and then put them outside for the summer, it's June, it's basically the beginning of our summer. I'm way ahead of the game, if you ask me. We'll see. So don't know how this experiment's going to end up, but going to do see how it works out. So we're going to stick her out in the orchard. I'm just going to loosen up the pot and kind of dump it upside down, hopefully. This one had a mix of potting and natural native soil. Let's break all them roots up. There's not too much of a root base to it, but that's kind of what Bud 9 is known for, is not having too big of a root wad on it. Some of them have been, I transplanted one of these trees over here and it had kind of some yellowing leaves. And I noticed that the roots were much more bound up in the pot than like this, say this one was. This one was grown in a lot of our natural soil that I just kind of mixed in with, 50-50 potting mix. Because I didn't want to buy more potting mix because I'm cheap. So yeah, we got them on 4-gallon-an-hour drippers. And I'm hitting them. We have pretty clay soil, so it holds moisture pretty well. And so I'm hitting them every other day or every 3 days, something like that. And I'm kind of gonna opt not to mulch them because we have a lot of weed pressure here on our place. A lot of bindweed, a lot of other weed that comes up through mulch. And so that's why I know that it would be beneficial for the soil and everything to mulch it with wood chips, which we have over there, but pulling weeds one by one is just a pain in the butt. And just running our wheel hoe wherever down on the other end there through it once a week or once every other week is a really quick and easy chore, and it gets rid of all these weeds. That's my plan for right now. And yeah, so since I'm new to grafting, this is my Bud 9 orchard. I have it planted pretty high density, tightly spaced, and I didn't know what the proper time to plant was here in Montana. My rootstock showed up in March, and I had signwood all ready to go, obviously. And so I just started grafting, and some of these grafts I just did them and brought them out, planted them pretty directly, and they sat there for a little bit and then started to take. Others took quicker, and I also had some like this one over here. This tree is trailman, I believe. Yep, trailman. And it started growing, and we had a hard frost, and the buds died. Like the buds died. They were growing pretty good, and then they just died. So I don't know what the proper timing is as far as planting, because we had hard frost Memorial Day weekend, like 20 something degrees, and so I don't have room for all these trees. I didn't have room for all these trees in the greenhouse to grow them out, and so that's why I opted to plant them in here. And I heard that your grass can take some frost, but obviously like that one did not like it, and a few others also I noticed died back. But now we got nights where it's upper 40s into the 50s, which is warm for us, and the trees are really starting to grow. And you can see like those were transplanted from the greenhouse a couple days ago. These are Norlands that we took off of the trees off our old house. I cut the signwood around Christmas time last winter, and I grafted onto this rootstock, and it's doing real well. The Norland apples produced for us at our old house, and they're really cold hardy trees, so that's why I think they do so well here. And some of these other trees are really taking off pretty well. That's a Wolf River. I don't know how well that one's going to produce, but so far it's growing well. So I tried to buy everything for zone 3, but then I got in a pinch and I ended up buying a couple trees that are zone 4. We're supposedly in zone 4, but I don't buy it. Here's a Milden variety of apple tree. Here's another Milden that it's the tip wood, and I thought it was going to take. It looked good. I can't tell. That bud looks like it might be swelling. I don't know. Another thing, I don't know what the proper timing is on this, because I see people in various places like the Northwest, like Oregon, Washington, they start pulling the rootstock leaves in like May. But here, does that mean I should pull it in June or July? Or in May? I don't know. It kind of makes sense to me to pull it early to try to send all that energy up to the signwood. But I've heard some people say that you should leave it on to try to ensure that you have good, healthy rootstock, that some energy is going back down into the roots. So I don't know what the right answer is to that either. So if someone does have a tip for me on that, I'd appreciate when the proper time to to prune all those leaves off that are shooting up from the rootstock are. Because I mean, like, do it as soon as the graft looks like it's taken. Kind of makes sense to me. That's what I've been doing. Here's some Freedom apples. They're supposed to be pretty disease resistant. So this is Frostbite, and it's a crab apple that's supposed to be super good from what I've read. And it is honestly, I think, the first graft I've ever done. And check out this grafting scar. It is grotesque. Terrible. But it took. So it's not that hard. Give it a shot if you would like to graft your own trees. It's kind of fun. We were planning on doing 2 rows, and then I got an extra shipment of rootstock from Williamette Nursery, which were very gracious and basically gave it to me because we had a miscommunication. And rootstock that they sent me is amazing, and recommend them if you ever want to try a project like this. But so I expanded 4 rows, and some of the scion, like I said, I'm not that great at. First time doing it, I picked some bad scion, and the grafts didn't take because of that, I believe. And so I don't know if I'm going to fill this up. I'm honestly thinking of leaving it blank or leaving it empty and getting another batch of rootstock next winter and grafting more trees, because these dwarf rootstocks don't last forever. And so if I have succession planning, then, I can cut some trees out and keep having apples coming in the future. That's my thought, and I'm just going to keep this all worked up and ready to go. My other idea was I have a fair amount of rootstock, bud 9 rootstock, that I could just plant out in here and try to graft onto it. But the thing with that is I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy grafting onto trees that are already in the ground, just because, like, working with something vertically here and timing it with when the rootstock starts to come out of dormancy might be difficult with the scion wood we get. The scion wood might start going bad on me because our wood doesn't come out of dormancy till middle of May. And so that's 6 months that our scion wood has to be in the refrigerator. And so that's kind of why I like bench grafting. I can get them going in the greenhouse, get the trees good and pumped up and healthy, and send them out here. The thing is with this project that I've done is obviously those trees that are out there that are all grown up already look really great and everything, but they need to be tented in our greenhouse because it froze hard for multiple months while they were in there, and I left them in a little covered tent with a space heater that had tomatoes under it too. That's the only reason those ones are so good, and I would love to have done that with all 70 trees or whatever I have out here, but I didn't have the space to do it, and so I'm like, stuck between a rock and a hard place as far as if I was going to redo this plant. Obviously, I want them all to have that kind of growth on them when I stick them outside, but they don't like, putting them in the greenhouse, they'd start shooting some growth up and then they'd freeze off, I think, if I did it too early. Anyway, if you want to see how this progresses and we'll do a video maybe at the end of the summer, September, something like that, to show you how my orchard's doing, and keep you posted. The big question is, will they survive the winter? So keep you guys posted on that. I appreciate you watching, and hope you take on a project like this if it interests you, because it sure is fun for me.